Hello and welcome to the history of Stargate. Today's episode, the Replicators. Replicators were advanced robots capable of reproducing themselves indefinitely, consuming all available resources in an area to create more of themselves. The Replicators were created at an unspecified time in the past on a human world where an android called Reese was created. This machine had a childlike personality and was feared by the natives of the planet. In order to keep herself amused, she created the Replicators, which were to be her toys. As the population of the world grew more fearful of Reese and the Replicators, she began to teach the machines to protect her and themselves. In order to accomplish this, they began the process of self-replication. The Replicators grew too large in number, and Reese herself began to lose the ability to control them. After Reese lost control of the Replicators, they destroyed her world and everyone living on it. The Replicators abandoned Reese in pursuit of raw materials, and Reese, feeling guilty and abandoned, went to sleep. She was later discovered by SG1 and brought to Earth, where she was shot while trying to leave Earth with her newly created Replicators. The Asgard Replicator War. It is not known how the Replicators ended up in the Ida Galaxy, but the most likely scenario is that the Asgard explored the human world where the Replicators were first created and brought some of the surviving blocks on board their ship for study, not knowing what they truly are. Once the blocks were brought together, they started replicating and infesting the ship, and the Asgard were unable to control them. The Replicators then took control of the ship and set course for the Ida Galaxy. In a last-ditch effort to stop the Replicators from reaching their homeworld, the Asgard destroyed their ship, but some blocks managed to survive and reached a planet. Without any further raw materials to replicate, they deactivated themselves and waited. At some point, the Asgard explored the planet and uncovered deactivated replicator blocks. Since they had no prior knowledge of the Replicators, they would have assumed that the Replicators were created in their galaxy, and that the creators had been destroyed by the Replicators. During the study of these machines, the replicator blocks activated and began to assimilate Asgard technology, which allowed them to spread throughout the Asgard galaxy. Given that they had no prior knowledge of Asgard technology, they would have spread quite quickly and overwhelmed the Asgard. The Replicators then became a plague and destroyed everything in its path. This resulted in the Asgard Replicator War, which kept the Asgard's attention contained in their own galaxy as they attempted to defeat this robotic menace. Eventually, the Replicators began taking over Asgard vessels, and the Asgard tactics proved ineffective, as the Replicators were fast-learning machines. This meant that all attempts by the Asgard at defeating them meant that the Replicators simply grew more advanced by learning from the machines that were used against them. As a result, the Replicators began to close in on the Asgard planet Othala. In desperation, the Asgard enlisted the aid of the people of Earth to help them combat this threat, with the aid of Major Samantha Carter, which in turn resulted in the destruction of the O'Neill. They were able to stave off this initial invasion of their homeworld. However, this was only a minor victory as the Replicators continued to be a formidable and dangerous foe. Upon the rediscovery of Reese by SG1, the Asgard took the android in order to find a weakness in the Replicators. Unfortunately, they were incapable of finding such a critical piece of information. Instead, they hatched upon a planet containing the Replicator menace. Triggering an activation signal, the entire mechanical horde raced towards the Asgard planet Hala, where a time dilation field was activated, which threatened to trap the Replicators indefinitely. However, the Replicators at this point managed to recover Reese and studied her form, realizing that there were elements in her makeup that were superior to their own. This in turn led the Replicators to create human form replicators, which were comprised of microscopic nanite blocks. The first of these new intelligent replicators was capable of piercing the Asgard time dilation device through a microscopic crack and reprogrammed it to serve their needs, with the intention of increasing their numbers to such an extent that they would overwhelm the known worlds. However, SG1 managed to convince Fifth to betray his kin, and he activated the Asgard time dilation device, though he was betrayed in the process, leaving the replicators frozen in time. Despite the use of the time dilation field on the replicators, it was projected by the Asgard that, even in this state, the machines would eventually be capable of deactivating the machine. As such, it was decided that Hala's sun would be collapsed into a black hole, increasing the gravity on its surface. It was believed that the combination of the time dilation field and the growing black hole would destroy the replicators once and for all. Supreme Commander Thor was dispatched for this duty, and he came into contact with Major Samantha Carter and Teal'c from SG1, who came to ask for his aid. As they waited to see the end of the replicators, Thor's vessel detected that a branch of the machines had split off from the group and had possessed the time dilation device, which they had used to counteract the effects of the black hole, in a way that even the Asgard were incapable of explaining. As the replicators were escaping, they came into contact with Thor's vessel, and Carter was abducted by the replicators after they had infiltrated the vessel through a replicator block-made missile that penetrated the Asgard shields. Carter quickly came to realize that the replicators were being held by a sole human form replicator, Fifth, who had now taken charge of his kin. Due to the betrayal that he faced at the hands of SG1, he held a great deal of anger towards her and plotted to once again increase the replicator numbers as originally planned on Hala. To this end, he took his replicator vessel to the new Asgard homeworld of Orilla, where it was destroyed by an Asgard fleet. But dozens of replicator blocks survived and reached the surface of the planet, where they began to infest the world, thus threatening the stored minds of the Asgard that were waiting for placement into new cloned bodies. Taking hold of the planet, the replicators began a process of mining neutronium in order to create new human form replicators, and it seemed that the destruction of the Asgard race was imminent. However, Thor went to Earth and saved the life of Colonel Jack O'Neill, who had knowledge of the Ancients in his mind. Using this information, they managed to construct a weapon capable of destroying the replicators and something that they were incapable of defending against. Fifth himself came to realize that Carter would never love him and abandoned her on Orilla, as well as an unknown number of his kin, in order to escape the effects of the replicator disruptor cannon and fled into hyperspace. Though defeated, the replicators were not destroyed, and Fifth began to use his stores of neutronium to create a replicator copy of Samantha Carter. Thank you for watching the history of the Replicators. Special thanks to Stargate Fandom for all information you heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you have, thank you, and have a nice day. And stay tuned for part 2 of the history of the Replicators, Replicarter, or Replicator Carter, whichever you prefer. Bye-bye!